am a fan of Rereading. I also read the Kane Chronicles. I think that's the one with the Egyptian characters. That's another one that I want to reread. But I really like his work, and so I haven't read The Lightning Thief. Sorry, I'm sweating. Since I was, let me see, Goodreads said 2012. How old was I in 2012?
So listen, I'm an English major, which means math isn't really my strong suit. I initially said 13, 14, but I was actually 15 or 16, depending on when I actually read it.
I remembered really enjoying it when I was 14, and so I figured I might either enjoy it again or find all of the problematic things. And I haven't found too many issues yet thus far. As of the recording of this video, I am only up to chapter 19. But, so, okay, let me start from the beginning. The reason I decided to reread it is because my friend Sulai, if you remember her from the reviews of Midnight Sun and Black Swan Affair, had been talking about wanting to reread it, and I agreed. She was also talking about wanting to reread Twilight, which she did do, read like the entire series, and I'm like, I can't do it because I feel like they're gonna upset me, even though there are a lot of nostalgic scenes that I want to reread. However, I'm jazzing with this idea of rereading The Lightning Thief because I really enjoyed it, and I don't remember any problematic things about it, so on Thursday, I downloaded it. Well, I already had it. So I opened it and I started rereading, and I'm still really enjoying it. So, the premise, and there will be all of the spoilers, so just be forewarned of that. So, 12-year-old Percy Jackson, he is dyslexic and has ADHD. He's been kicked out of like many schools, boarding schools. He's in 6th grade. He's been kicked out of and transferred to as many schools, 6 schools. And he is really like frustrated. Like people are picking on him. He's also fast with his like fists and his aggression, which I actually really love. And so the book opens in chapter 1. He's on a school trip in New York. I think his boarding school is upstate. And he's in New York and he's like, man, I just want to take a taxi and go home, but he doesn't want to disappoint his mom. And he also doesn't want to deal with his stepdad. His stepdad is Gabe Ugliano. I love that that's his last name. Gabe is absolutely disgusting. He smells horrible. Hang on, let me find you the description.
While you wait, I figure I should probably give you a little bit more context. So Percy's in the city, he's visiting the Met, and by this point in the story, I mean, we're only like a few pages in, by this point in his life, he'd resolved to be good, even when this bully chick keeps like pelting his best friend Grover in the head with pieces of her PB&J sandwich. Side note, do people actually do that, or is that just a rich kid thing? Anyway, so they're off the bus, exploring the museum. Percy's math teacher, the hateful Mrs. Dodds, is not making him feel good about himself, but his other teacher, whose name I do not remember, encourages him in the ancient Greek section, asking him questions. Percy can actually answer them. He's the only teacher that actually pushes Percy. The rest kind of just, ridicule him. So now it's lunchtime, and Bully Chick drops half her lunch in Grover's lap, and Percy is not feeling it. Next thing, Bully is in the fountain, and Percy never pushed her. He probably would have if, he'd gotten the chance, but everyone else around them is like, Schmidt's weird, looks like the water just grabbed her. So Math Bish is like, let's go inside, Percy, I need to talk to you. And Grover's like, Percy, no, and keeps trying to catch the eye of the ancient Greek teacher. Percy and Math Bish go up, Percy and Math Bish end up back in the ancient Greek section, and she turns into this old disgusting hag who tries to kill Percy. So nice teacher rolls in, he's in a wheelchair, and tosses Percy a pen. Your boy's confused now. He's like, chick's trying to kill me and you're handing me a pen. What am I supposed to do with that? But pen turns into a sword, old lady goes poof, back outside, Percy finds a new teacher with everyone acting like nothing ever happened. He keeps asking, like randomly, like, hey, what happened to Mrs. Dodds? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? This teacher is always who we've had, except Grover, who is a trash liar. And so the rest of the school year goes by, and Percy keeps trying to, he figures that the whole school is just playing a trick on him. And he's like, okay, but isn't this something Mrs. Dodds would do? And everybody's just like, bro, what are you talking about? There's one point that he does overhear a conversation with Grover and ancient Greek teacher, and it's really confusing. And they're talking about like all this information that Percy doesn't know, and something about like a deadline of the solstice. And Percy's like, what is going on? Things are not as they seem.
Okay, so this is when Percy is heading home at the end of the school year. He has been expelled for a few reasons, and so now we're really getting into talking about Smelly Gabe Ugliano. Finally, she married Gabe Ugliano, who was nice the first 30 seconds we knew him, then showed his true colors as a world-class jerk. When I was young, I nicknamed him Smelly Gabe. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. The guy reeked like moldy garlic pizza wrapped in gym shorts. So, you get a feel for how disgusting Smelly Gabe is, like really actually quite smelly. And we learned that the reason Smelly Gabe is even in his life, we learned this later on, is because his mom was trying to protect him. Having someone who smelled so disgusting and really masked Percy's demigod scent from the rest of the world.
Not the world, just the demigod hunting monsters.
Now getting into the meat of it, he is a demigod. And the reason why he has so much trouble in school is because his brain is hardwired to read ancient Greek, not English, which is, so things literally, it's all Greek to him. Well, except not literally, rather. It's all Greek to him, except when it is Greek, then it actually does make sense. And in his school, he has this satyr named Grover, who, he doesn't know he's a satyr. Sorry, this word is really tripping me up. And Grover sort of stays with him, and he's his protector from the big bads and trying to like get him past 12. That's apparently a problem that a lot of the demigod children, the half-bloods, have is making it past 12. Like, they're usually picked off by the monsters by then. A lot of times they don't know that they are mystical because their mothers sort of keep it from them. And so one of the ways that his mom is also trying to protect him is by having Gabe Ugliano cover his scent. And Grover, though, is kind of scrawny, and so Percy's usually the one who's defending him because people are always picking on both of them. And
so when Percy isn't coming back to school the next school year and they'll be parted ways for the summer, Grover starts freaking out because he's like, oh my gosh, I need to protect you from the big bads or hide you from the big bads. And Percy's like, protect me? Bro, I'm the one who's been fighting your battles. What you talking about, buddy?
Yeah, so it's a lot. When he finds out that he is a demigod, it's because he and his mom go to Montauk, Long Island, to spend a weekend in their old sort of beaten up cabin, which they haven't done in a while. And Ugliano is out here like, well, don't ruin my car. Where are you getting this money? This money's coming out of your clothing allowance, right? And she's like, yes, it is. Like, whatever. Just, I'll leave you food. It'll be great.
So Gabe usually has the house a mess, and he's always gambling with his 4 poker buddies and always hitting Percy up for money. And he is not thrilled about them taking this trip. And he's like, Sally, go make me my 7-bean dip. And Percy's like, I just want to punch him in the face. And she's like, oh, honey, don't be like that. Like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, punch him in the face. And she's like, no, we're going to go on our trip and yada, yada, yada. Gabe, I'll make you like 7 layers. And then she starts, I just imagine her seductively saying like guacamole and cheese. And Gabe's like, fine. But don't crash the car, bitch.
So they go off to the cabin. They're there one night. Percy's asking about his dad. He vaguely remembers like the warm glow of his smile, but his mom is like, no, your dad never saw you. And he's like, are you sure?
Because I'm sure I remember something.
Then at nighttime, there's this crazy storm and someone's like knocking at the door. Turns out it's Grover. So Percy had ditched Grover, who wanted to like accompany him home.
But obviously Percy thought this was kind of a weird request. Like, bro, you're being a little too clingy. We're not even gonna see each other, so let's cut our ties now. Especially, I just found out you were rich. So Grover had told Percy that they might run into each other because he would have his summer home on Long Island. Percy was like, bro, I thought he was poor and like unfortunate like me.
And he's so confused. Like, how did Grover get here? How did he know where he was? And then I think this is about when like the Minotaur shows up and starts trying to attack them, and it's just like crazy to read about. His mom ends up disappearing in golden shards. He thinks that she's dead, but that's actually not the case. And then he ends up in Camp Half-Blood. He learns that he's a demigod, but he doesn't know who his father is, so he stays in the Hermes cabin, which is where all of the unclaimed kids tend to end up. He starts learning how to fight. He's kind of confused about it all. He's like, really, like, we're kids. Why are we learning how to use like weapons? And what kind of summer camp is this? But he eventually gets into the swing of things. Then he finds out that his father is Poseidon after a game of Capture the Flag, where he's like attacked by the Aries cabin, and they use like real weapons and stuff like that. So he gets poisoned, and then he falls into the lake or river, I think it's a lake, and starts to feel better. And then Annabeth kind of figures it out, and then like a golden trident appears above his head, and he's claimed by his father, who is Poseidon, as I mentioned before. Then Chiron, who is a centaur, also like a great teacher. Not like great as in amazing, but like great as in renown. He has been teaching and helping and fostering half-blood children and heroes rather for years now.
Actually, more like millennia. Chiron is also the teacher that Percy had at that last boarding school who encouraged him in his ancient Greek studies. He was in disguise.
So he tells Percy that Zeus's lightning bolt has been stolen. Zeus is blaming Poseidon, but they're pretty sure Hades stole it, and he's like, you know, you have a quest. He doesn't tell him this initially, he just tells him like, hey, you have a quest, are you gonna accept it? And Percy's like, bro, I'm not gonna accept something that I don't know about. And he's like, yeah, but like if I told you, you'll be frightened. So Percy accepts, and he tells him about the lightning bolts and how they have to head to Hades, head to the underworld, which is in the west. So as Western civilization, the seat of Western civilization moves, so too do the gods. The seat of Western civilization is in America. Mount Olympus is located above the Empire State Building, and the underworld is always as westernmost as possible, so it is in Los Angeles, which I feel like is also in keeping with a lot of the just like kind of craziness that Los Angeles usually engenders in people. So they head out on a quest west. So what I like about this book thus far is that there are consequences to the whole thing in the cabin where Percy ends up in Camp Half-Blood and his mom goes up in Golden Spark, so he thinks that she's dead. Like, they went missing, and so now Percy is sort of like a fugitive. People don't know what happened, like the disappearance of him and his mom. And Ugliano is out here on the news like, oh my gosh, you know, like he has always been like a troubled kid. And so people keep getting snapshots of Percy, Grover, and Annabeth. Annabeth is a daughter of Athena. I was going to say Minerva, which I am ashamed of as a lover of Greek mythology that I defaulted to the Romans, but you know what? It's okay. But Annabeth has always wanted to go on a quest, and she never thought she would, and so now they are going on one. And so as they're headed west, like people like randomly get snapshots of Percy, and it's always like after he's like defeated a monster or something like that. And they're like, you know, this troubled teen, or troubled child, he's like doing so much, and it's like, is he being brainwashed by a cult? Who are these other like kids with him? Are they also runaways? And so I love this real world consequence that is happening, because he doesn't just end up a demigod or find out that he's a demigod and all of a sudden things just disappear. So I'm really enjoying like a lot of the descriptions and stuff like that. I think this book is really entertaining. Sometimes it's a little juvenile, but not necessarily in a bad way. For example, when Percy, Annabeth, and Grover are in Denver, they meet up with Aries, or Aries meets up with them, and he's riling them up in part because he's the god of war, but also he can sort of manipulate the emotions, or manipulate a room, I guess, like make you more angry, just increase the intensity of your emotions. And he's like, okay, listen, so go get my shield. And Percy's like, you're a big bad god, go get your shield yourself. And he's like, no, I have better things, more important things, more interesting things to do, so you go do it. And Percy's ready to like, you know, just curse him out. And Annabeth is like, hold on, Percy, like he's a god, like hold on. And so they finally do accept the task, and they go to this like rundown, defunct water park in Denver. I think they're in Denver. And there's this tunnel of love ride where Aries and Aphrodite were supposed to meet. Something that I really liked is that he doesn't hold back on like, you know, the craziness of Greek mythology, but he also doesn't like delve deeply into it. Like, it's like he's giving kids credit, but he's also not like being like explicit about. So Aphrodite is a goddess of love, sex, and beauty. He only says love, and that's fine, but he also is very candid about the fact that Aphrodite is cheating on Hephaestus. And so Hephaestus is always trying to capture her and Aries in like a trap. And so this is a trap that they know about, but Aries wants them to spring it so that Percy and his friends can get his shield. And as I said, so this is the Tunnel of Love ride or whatever. It's like a boat with like hearts and stuff like that. And Annabeth, when they get there, Percy's like, okay, so, you know, Grover stays back, you and I head down, and then we'll do this and that. And Annabeth is like, no, I can't get in like a Tunnel of Love ride with you. Like, that's like gross or not gross, but she's just like, you know, that's so embarrassing or whatever. And he hadn't thought about it until she said it, and then he starts blushing, and they're both blushing, and he's like, oh my gosh, like girls make everything weird, and she is muttering, boys make everything weird. And so it's like a cute little nod to the fact that they are 12, which I really appreciated, but they are also still like heroes in training. And so they, you know, get in, get it done, and it's just like really awkward for both of them, and I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoy a lot of these descriptions.
Like I mentioned Smelly Gay, but there are so many other things that are just so hilariously descriptive, hilarious and descriptive.
In, I think, chapter 18? Yeah, chapter 18. So they've made it to LA after like all of these like mishaps and things like that. Percy learns a little bit more about his power because he jumps into a lake to he jumps into the Mississippi River to escape the fire-breathing chimera, and he sort of learns a little bit more about his power, his ability to breathe underwater, about his father. He starts meeting some of the people in his father's court. Then we have the whole kerfuffle with Aries and his shield. Then they get trapped in this hotel, and they end up losing out on a whole bunch of days. Their quest was only supposed to take 10 days. They lost out on, it's not specified, but all of a sudden, like, the stakes were even higher because they only had a day to find the lightning bolt before war ensued between the gods. So they're in LA now, and they're looking for DOA Studios, which is like the cover place for the underworld. And so they have these group of like white kids who Percy is like, yeah, I know that they are rich. Like, they look like the type from my last boarding school. Like, they look like they were rich, but they're just like playing at being tough. And so they're chasing them and all this stuff, and they duck into this waterbed shop, like, to get away from them. And this guy like startles them. The owner of the shop startles them, and I made sure to make a note of his introduction because it really made me laugh. Standing behind us was a guy who looked like a raptor in a leisure suit. He was at least 7 feet tall, with absolutely no hair. He had gray, leathery skin, thick-lidded eyes, and a cold reptilian smile. He moved toward us slowly, but I got the feeling he could move fast if he needed to. His suit might have come from the Lotus Casino. That's where they were trapped when they were in Vegas, and they lost all of those days. It belonged back in the 70s, big time. The shirt was silk paisley, unbuttoned halfway down his hairless chest. The lapels on his velvet jacket were as wide as landing strips. The silver chain around his neck, I couldn't even count them. Oh, that was chains, sorry. The silver chains around his neck, I couldn't even count them. I'm crusty, he said, with a tartar yellow smile. I resisted the urge to say, yes, you are. And that just like made me laugh. And there are just so many like little things in here. I'll come back when I've actually finished the book. I'm almost done. I have like maybe 10 or so chapters left, I think. I could be completely off here. But I'm really enjoying this reread. I feel like there are a lot of things, you know, there's nothing ever like inappropriate, but I feel like because I'm like older, there are a few things that I may read into. Annabeth talks about the reason why Aphrodite is still with Hephaestus, and she says something about the fact that he's like crafty or creative with his hands, and I was like, whoa, that is inappropriate. But I was like, he is also a blacksmith. Like, it's in a literal sense, but I'm just finding the double meanings because I'm inappropriate, so don't mind me. There's another point after they have gone through the underworld and are coming back when Hades and Percy had a bit of a standoff, and Percy uses the magic marble pearl things that Poseidon gave him to get him, Annabeth, and Grover to safety. It's a really hard decision for him because, as I mentioned earlier, though his mom did not die, she was captured and is sort of being held captive in the moment just before she was horned. Would that be the equivalent of being speared, except with a horn, by the Minotaur? And so Percy tries to like get her back, and Hades is like, "Mwahaha, I have your mother. I know that you're trying to start this war and trying to cause like all of this trouble, and also you stole my helm of invisibility or something." And Percy's like, "Bro, no I didn't. Can all of you guys get your shit together. Did I say guys? All of you gods, get it together and, you know, stop blaming the demigod. Like, can you act like adults? Like you've been alive for 1,000 years? No, you can't? Okay. And Percy really wants to take his mother with them, but he knows that that's not what she would want him to do. So he takes Annabeth. Have I mentioned Annabeth yet? So he meets Annabeth, and they all go on the quest They all go on the quest together. Annabeth had been longing for a quest, and Percy being there now, she finally gets to go on one. And so that's really exciting for her. And so yeah, now we're here all this time later. I'm pretty sure I did mention her, so maybe I'll just cut this part. Anyway, so he smashes these pearls, he gives each one to the friend, and they all like explode onto the top of the water in the Santa Monica Pier. And I will read from here because this part made me laugh. For a few moments, I couldn't see anything outside of the smooth walls of my sphere. Then my pearl broke through on the ocean floor. The two other milky spheres, Annabeth and Grover, kept pace with me as we soared upward through the water, and kerblam! We exploded on the surface in the middle of the Santa Monica Bay. Oh, I said pier, but whatever. Okay. Knocking a surfer off his board with an indignant, "Dude!" I grabbed Grover and hauled him over to a life buoy. I caught Annabeth and dragged her over too. A curious shark was circling us, a great white about 11 feet long. I said, "Beat it." The shark turned and raced away. The surfer screamed something about bad mushrooms and paddled away from us as fast as he could. And I thought that was great. That was a little like tidbit that I did not catch when I was younger. So those were just points that I found funny. There were a lot of little moments in this book that I really enjoyed. By the time that I'm making this second part of the video, I didn't get to record all week. And so I've already flown through the next 4 books in a week, and I've been enjoying it so much. So about the rest of this book though. So in that same scene, Percy encounters Aries again. He is being controlled by the big bad who is rising, Kronos, the father of the god. Is he their father? I think so, because he had like eaten Zeus, right? Anyway, so he's like rising, but no one wants to believe it, and he's actually controlling Aries, and Aries and Percy like have this like intense fight. So there's a lot of exposition. When Percy gets back to the beach, I think is what happens, and Aries is like, "Oh my gosh, hey, you didn't die." And when Percy figures out that Aries is the one who stole the Helm of Darkness, and Aries just goes into this long thing. He's like, well, this was supposed to happen, and this was supposed to happen, and then, you know, Hades would be mad at both Zeus and Poseidon, and everybody's gonna be mad at each other, and you ruined the plan. And he goes into all of these details, and I don't know if this is just like a product of the book or the time period, you know, like it's geared toward a younger audience, so we do a lot more exposition. If it's a time period, you know, I feel like the rules and stuff about books have definitely changed over the years, or like the preferences and but it felt like so much exposition before they fought and as they were fighting and just all this stuff. That was one part that was I did not love so much, but otherwise, as I said, you know, I was really enjoying this book. I also enjoyed at the end when Luke lures Percy away into the woods, and he, you know, is trying to like kill him / get him onto Hades, Kronos' side. And side note, I love that the fact that, you know, that Luke was the traitor and stuff like that. There are so many things that I remembered about this book, but I didn't remember until it happened, and I was like, oh yeah, that is the thing. And so this does tie in a little bit to this article that I read. Oh, actually, before the article, something else. I did not remember that Gabe hit Percy's mom, it doesn't happen in the book, but like Gabe like raises his hand and Percy's mom flinches, and Percy's like, he realized something that he didn't realize before, and there's this whole thing where, you know, he wants to kill Gabe or like turn him into stone with the Medusa head, and his mom is like, you know, I have to find my own strength. You want to come in here and save me just like your father did, and I love it, but I have to do this myself. I have to be strong enough to do it myself. And I love the range of women that we get to see in this book. We see Annabeth, who is brainy, but can also handle herself. Clarice, who's just kind of like a bully, the bully from the beginning of the book. Nancy, maybe, I think her name was, the one who Percy pushed, quote unquote, into the water, or who, you know, Percy caused to the water to grab. You know, they're both just like these bulky, just like bullies. And then his mom was definitely more of the quiet strength type. And so I thought that was really nice. Just getting the variety of that, you know? But anyway, so I read this article, and this ties into my thoughts on Luke. This person, and I'll put a link in the description, this person was talking about like all of the issues that they had with Percy Jackson. They loved it as a kid, but they felt like the Greek gods were watered down. Obviously it's a children's novel, which they're like, I get, but they didn't like that Riordan set the world, you know, said that America was the current seat of Western culture. And I do think it's true and not true. I think there are a couple of powers in play here, but I think in the way America perceives itself, I think that's also like important to think about as well. And you know, the fact that they are in America, like they're now perceiving America perhaps as the seat of culture. Maybe America's arrogance is what drew the gods to us. They really seem like Greek god purists. Another thing that they said was when they were kids, like all of the stuff with the dead and like really unsettled them. And as an adult, it definitely has unsettled me some. It's definitely still a little jarring to read about, but I'm easily spooked. So that's, you know, that's the argument there. I guess, or not that that's my thing, I guess, but that's definitely something to note. But you know, I feel like they're like this is advocating America-centeredness. This is people who see the Greeks, people, you know, who are descendant Greeks or descended from the Greeks would be offended because Riordan has sort of taken the Greek torch and given it to America and has sort of left everyone else out. And I see that, but I don't at the same time. Like, I feel like they do make a good argument, but I also think about sort of the way Greek culture has been perceived, even when the Greeks and other Eastern Europeans and Central Europeans and Mediterraneans were being othered during the Romantic era. They still used Greek mythology, classical Greek structures for their metaphors, to symbolize beauty, for all of that stuff. And I feel like I agree with Greek mythology having become like a symbol, or not a symbol, but a foundational piece of Western culture. But I feel like with the way so many people integrate Greek stories, like I don't see it that way. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm an American, so I'm just like, America is the center of everything. But I think it's too deep for what this book was meant to do. They definitely did not feel like Riordan was advocating like white supremacy, but more so American supremacy. And I don't know, Luke does critique the West. He says Western civilization is a disease. It's killing the world. The only ways to stop it is to burn it to the ground. Start over with something more honest. And yes, Luke is the opposition, but there are also little digs at things. I can't find the exact place it meant, but there's a point where Aries is like, yeah, you know, I can have weapons in this day and age in America. Like, no one even like bats an eyelash at a gun or a knife or whatever. And so I feel like with just as much praise, there also comes the criticism. But I'm like, it's also a book for kids, and placing it, I like the fact that you go across America and you sort of see, sometimes there are, you know, the Greek influences, but other times it's just seeing American culture as it is. And in the article, the person argued that you can do that. You can talk about Greek culture, set it in America, and still have the gods being Greece and stuff like that. But I feel like the story would be different, and knowing that the story was empowering for his sons who are dyslexic, or one of his sons who's dyslexic and stuff, I feel like it's also sort of like a nice American, like you can be the center of your story, even though he is using the Greek gods to tell it. I don't know. Weigh in, let me know what you think. I really enjoyed this reread, and I'm really excited to get into the next books in the next videos that I upload. So, like, subscribe, as I said, comment, give me your thoughts. Have you read it? Are you going to read it? Was this too disjointed a review? I feel feel like it was more like a collection, like it was half review, half my thoughts. And yeah, let me know, and I shall see you in the next one.